First of all, thank you for joining us for this video series that we're doing for Cosmos Hub. I think a great start would be if you can give us a quick introduction about you and what you're building.
Well, my name is Candice. So I am an independent PR consultant. So I currently work across a few different projects, but in the Cosmos ecosystem, I work with Neptune Finance. I used to work for Tendermint. In fact, I rebranded Tendermint to Ignite, and after we restructured, I went on to work with another Cosmos project, NIM. I've been very close to a lot of the different Cosmos projects because I really believe that the Cosmos ecosystem does actually bring to life the promises of Web3. So with Neptune Finance, it is a credit network lending protocol. So it is actually really innovative, compared to a lot of the DeFi projects in the lending space. They actually use their own PID controller, which is invented by one of the co-founders who holds a physics PhD, to actually adjust the interest rate curve dynamically. So this actually is really good for users, lenders and borrowers, and eventually developers who actually want to, build on Neptune, because it actually addresses the limitations that a lot of the typical DeFi money markets use now, which is the market static curve.
What drew you to Cosmos ecosystem? How did you discover it?
So when I got into Web3 back in 2017, and from there I started trying to learn a lot more, because I remember when I first read about this, I'm like, what is this technology? I don't understand it, but I find it really fascinating, and it just made me go, wow, okay, this is really cool. So as I worked more into it, it was so funny because it was so long ago. The project I was working with, they used Hyperledger Fabric, and I was just like, I'm sure there's more to it. So from there I started learning about Ethereum. So the more I read about it, the more I discovered that there was a lot of other ecosystems. So particularly I was quite interested in how developers could actually come into Web3, because back then there was a huge shortage of blockchain engineers, right? Nobody knew what it was. Very few people actually had the expertise and experience. It was all kind of like trial and error. So as I was doing more research in it, I discovered the Cosmos ecosystem. And shortly after, I actually, I got a bit of an outreach from Tendermint, looking to hire, and that's how I kind of how it cemented my interest and love for the Cosmos ecosystem.
So you've been on quite a journey across Cosmos also, and coming through this thing. What do you think is super unique about Cosmos compared to other ecosystems that you currently also engage with and have had some experience with?
I want to say the community. I know that it could be a little bit spicy sometimes with the dynamics of the community, but I think compared to other ecosystems, the Cosmos community actually genuinely are interested in this space and the impact it has on the world. And at any point in time, somebody from a different project or whatsoever, it's there. You could disagree on certain things, but you have a good product and you're genuinely here to build. I think that being so genuine means that the other community members can also recognize that, and they would lend a hand to support. You can come to a conference every year and then you see people that you've known and you met, and then you actually genuinely get along with each other. And I think that's very rare in an ecosystem that you're supposedly competitors, right? And I think that's what makes Cosmos very unique. And even though it's supposed to be a very developer-focused ecosystem, I'm not a developer, and honestly, I've never felt unwelcome. I've never felt like I don't belong. And there are people who give me opportunities to speak, and they genuinely want to hear my opinions. And I think that we all want to learn from each other, and we will acknowledge when it's a good project, when it's good infra, when it's good tooling, whatsoever. And there is the respect there that we give for each other.
What, according to you, is because Cosmos infrastructure was meant to be cross-chain, it's meant to be supporting sovereign infrastructure and supposed to be interoperable. What do you think are something super important in terms of user experience to sort of make Cosmos projects gain even more traction and for them to onboard users more easily? You're working on a lot of DeFi projects by themselves. So what is something that you really see that makes a difference for onboarding users very easily?
I think actually telling them what to do step by step. I know it's such a basic thing, right? But a lot of projects, when they give step-by-step guides, it's very vague. I think we all should no matter how experienced you think a user is, I think you should actually treat them like how you would tell your mother or your grandmother how to use it. And when there is the understanding, then I think that it will be instinctive when in terms of the user experience, and basically make sure that new users don't want to give up halfway.
We'll just jump onto like another question segment of sorts. Okay, what are some tools that you find, like dApps, platforms, even like feature in an app that you have found like really fun to use, or you've really enjoyed lately on Cosmos?
I think there are a couple. Like obviously I'm not a developer, I'm not a builder, so being able to find apps or dApps or anything that I can actually use in my daily life or semi-daily life is interesting. Like projects like obviously Neptune protocol, like I may not necessarily be a developer that wants to build on it, but as a lender and a borrower, it's actually, I wouldn't say fun, but it's good to use. It makes my life easy. Sentinel VPN as well. I think the world knows VPN very well as well, but then I'm in Web3 and I kind of want to use more decentralized apps in my daily life, so that's also another good one. And I guess everyone's favorite app on Cosmos, Osmosis. They've done a good job in terms of the UX, and not just that, like the branding as well. Well, it doesn't hurt, that's my favorite color, purple. So yeah, I think these are some of the ones that I do enjoy currently, and I'm sure there are more that are upcoming.
What's a proposal on Cosmos Hub that really got you hooked into the governance aspect of it?
Okay, so I think a lot of different proposals that come up, I found it very interesting, because the fact that a lot of the projects want to actually hear from the community is a great thing. But the one that really got me hooked is ATOM 2.0. Not because whether it succeeded or it didn't succeed, which it didn't, but the amount of feedback and the opinions, that was actually contributed as to why it worked and why it didn't work and what could be done to improve it, was just particularly, it was really interesting. And I think there were a lot of very in-depth breakdown as to why it didn't work and what could be done to make it better. And that kind of really cemented to me, how intelligent, how invested, and how passionate, the Cosmos community is about the future of Cosmos ecosystem and, the way governance work.
So we already have interchain security that's seeing more adoption by projects. Like Crypto Dungeon is one of the chains that recently got ICS, it became an ICS consumer chain. There's also Hydro that's in the works. What do you think Cosmos Hub can do more to bring, make adoption of new projects in Cosmos easier?
So, might be of a contrarian opinion, right? I think there's a need to educate projects when is the time to use ICS for their projects. A lot of them think that they need to use ICS straight up because it's sexy, they will get the funding that they need, right? But then it doesn't necessarily means that you need to do it right from the get-go. So Neptune Finance decided very strategically that's not something they needed right from the start, but further down the track, because they wanted to be a little bit leaner and more mature before that could actually work better for them. So I think it's a little bit like doing PR or doing marketing for your project, right? There is a time and place depending on the season of your project, the stage it is at, what your actual objectives are. So I think if the hub actually has proper conversations and say, hey, this is why ICS is good, but let's take a look at your project and see when is the right time for you to start using it, as opposed to say you have to do it right from the start. So I think when new projects especially, who don't really know Cosmos really well, when they see that there's this genuine passion or motivation to really help you succeed in Cosmos by telling you when is a good time, when it's not a good time, and why, I think that's the only way, for them to kind of build the trust and, the incentivization that they need to get more projects on.
We'll jump into the rapid fire bit. So ATOM is a token, sell or compound?
Compound.
What do you think cosmonauts should hold ATOM?
Why should they hold ATOM? To make sure that Cosmos is not dead.
Who do you think should be the CEO of Cosmos?
No one. We need to remain decentralized.
Do you think we are focusing too much on token price as a growth metric for Cosmos?
I don't think we are focusing on token price at all. Are we? ATOM? Yeah, no, we're not.
First token you bought, and how did you get it?
Ethereum. Because I was actually working with an Ethereum project. You know, it was I guess the next sort of currency crypto after Bitcoin, which I kind of missed out on. So yeah.
And how did you get your first ATOM?
Yeah, well, I actually got reimbursed for my expenses through ATOM. I asked for it actually. Yeah.
What do you think is a metric that you keep in mind at least to track Cosmos's growth? Like, you know, is it like monthly active users, number of zones?
I think IBC volume. I think that's true reflection of actually how active, you know, the Cosmos ecosystem is, and in terms of whether, you know, it's genuinely being used. Yeah.
What's one thing about Cosmos that you would change overnight?
I would actually make sure that there is an equal number of women who are leading and building, and also basically talking about Cosmos. Yeah.
What's your favorite interchain wallet?
My favorite interchain wallet? Kepler, actually, because Leap Wallet doesn't love me yet.
Okay, I think do you want to end this with like a fun catchphrase about, like, you know, about Cosmos Hub? Like, you know,
about
build
what?
on it, or just like want a cool catchphrase to build on Cosmos?
Let me think. If you build it, they will not come if you don't tell them about it.
Amazing, amazing. That's great.